We didn't see her much on the campaign trail, and we've barely seen her at all now that Donald Trump is, unfortunately, president. And of course, I'm talking about his wife, Melania, who's barely come up at all during this presidency until Donald Trump brought her up in what was an incredibly strange meltdown of a speech at the University of Alabama when Donald Trump brought up Melania against her wishes, explicitly talking about how angry and humiliated she would be for Donald Trump to say what he said, something that was barely covered by the media, and he is only bringing up because of some recent legal woes that we are going to get into. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, there is a reason that Donald Trump brought up a topic that Melania has clearly begged him not to. And for an explanation of what that is, we have to start with Donald Trump's interaction with Maine Governor Janet Mills from just 2 months ago.
The NCAA has complied immediately, by the way, that's good. But I understand Maine, is Maine here, the governor of Maine?
Not here.
Are you not going to comply with it?
I'm complying with state and federal laws.
We are the federal law. Well, you better do it. You better do it because you're not going to get any federal funding at all if you don't. And by the way, your population, even though it's somewhat liberal, although I did very well there, your population doesn't want men playing in women's sports. So you better comply because otherwise you're not getting any federal funding.
See you in court.
Every state, good. I'll see you in court. I look forward to that. That should be a real easy one. And enjoy your life after governor because I don't think you'll be in elected politics.
So Donald Trump was attacking Governor Janet Mills because she was planning to follow the state and federal law and protect trans athletes in schools. That's the law in Maine. She was going to follow it. And of course, Donald Trump's threats was that he was going to completely defund schools in Maine. He was going to ruin the career of Janet Mills. He was going to take her to court. He said that, oh, you'll never seek elected office again. You're going to lose that battle so badly. And is that what you think happened? No, because Donald Trump has been suffering loss after loss after loss in court. And so today, Janet Mills had some pretty great news that she shared right here.
A few months ago, I stood in the White House, and when confronted by the President of the United States, I told him I'd see him in court. Well, I did see him in court, and we won.
So Janet Mills has come out on top, as really everyone who's bringing legal challenges against Donald Trump is recently. It's the reason we've seen him lean on intimidation so much, because he knows he's becoming less and less powerful and more unpopular by the day. It's the reason since day one of this administration, I've been calling for big institutions to not bend the knee to Trump. We've seen that from universities, we've seen it from corporate media, we've seen it from Wall Street. And when does it ever work out for them? You have to stand up to Trump. Mark Carney talked about this and is a great example. Does he call him the governor of Canada? No. Janet Mills is a great example. She just won her lawsuit. CBS is the perfect example of what you shouldn't do. They bent the knee, they caved, they settled $10 million for Trump so he would stop attacking 60 Minutes, and he still says that he's going to pull it off the air. You always have to fight back against Trump. And before we get into what he said after this spurred on his angry rant, I want to learn a little bit more about how Janet Mills won this lawsuit. Trump administration settles with Maine over funding freeze after dispute over trans athletes. In response, the state will drop its lawsuit that had been filed against the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Donald Trump's administration on Friday agreed to halt all efforts to freeze funds intended for a Maine child nutrition program after initially suspending those dollars due to disagreement between the state and Trump over transgender athletes. In response, the state will drop its lawsuit that had been filed against the U.S. Department of Agriculture. It's unfortunate that my office had to resort to federal court just to get USDA to comply with the law and its own regulations, Frey said in a statement. But we are pleased that the lawsuit has now been resolved and that Maine will continue to receive funds as directed by Congress to feed children and vulnerable adults. An email message seeking comment was sent Friday to the Agriculture Department. So Donald Trump's transphobia has gone so far that he was willing to deprive children of breakfast, lunch, and dinner to get it across the finish line. Just gross. And clearly I am not the only one who thinks that, because Donald Trump made it clear how Melania feels about his attack on transgender students and athletes and transgender Americans when he said this. It kind of threw her under the bus in his speech.
Men playing in women's sports. Did you ever see some of the records? Did you ever see some of these boxing matches? You know, we have to protect. These women are great athletes, but we have to protect. If you looked at the Olympics where they had transitioned people going into the boxing, where the women had boxing, and they had a great champion, a female boxer. I mean, after one punch, you walk back to the corner, said, I can't get hit like that. I've never been hit like that before. You look at all the volleyball players that have been hurt so badly with balls that are hit at levels that they've never seen before. But the greatest is like weightlifting. You ever see the weightlifting? Where they have a record that wasn't broken in 18 years? And they have, should I imitate it? You know, my wife gets very upset when I do this. She said, darling, it's not presidential. I said, yeah, but people like it. And she's going to do it. Mom, I love you. I'm going to do it for you, Mom. And she goes, and she lives, and she gets it. And, Mom, I'm going to do it, Mom. Can't do it.
So not only did he say that his wife was going to be mad at him for the disgusting transphobic remarks that he made, he then humiliated himself in his weird little meltdown on stage. Was that a win for Trump? Is that how, did he see that as a win? Do you see this as going to be a really positive result of acting like a disgusting, bigoted buffoon? It's hard to understand this guy sometimes and what he's really after. But clearly Donald Trump is leaning on this issue because, as he previously said, we saw this at an Oval Office press conference, he doesn't care about it at all. He just thinks that it's an electoral victory for him, right? So Donald Trump is going back to attacking Joe Biden, lying about the economy, all because he thinks that he is what he is, which is weak right now. And that's true. Donald Trump is weak, and that's why we have to capitalize on this moment in which he even understands his weakness and call him out, which is exactly what Bernie Sanders has been doing, and we saw in a much better speech just yesterday.
And let me talk a little bit about something that the media doesn't talk about and we don't talk about in Congress at all. And that is the reality that today we have 60% of our people living paycheck to paycheck. We have more income and wealth inequality that we have ever had in the history of the country. And as a result of this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision, we now have a corrupt campaign finance system in which billionaires in both political parties are controlling the political and legislative agenda. And I think this is an issue, whether you're a Republican, progressive, conservative, whatever you may be. Nobody thinks that American democracy is about Elon Musk contributing $270 million to elect Trump and then becoming the most important person in government. So, brothers and sisters, when we talk about the future of America and our political system, at the top of our agenda must be the need to end this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision. And move to public funding of elections. Now, let me tell you something which you're not going to hear much about in the corporate media, and you're not going to hear much about in the halls of Congress. And that is that today, the average American worker in real inflation accounted for dollars is earning less than he or she did 50 years ago. Now, you know why the American people are angry? They're angry because they're looking around them. They're seeing a huge increase in worker productivity. And yet all of that wealth is going to the people on top, not to the working class of this country. And we are here tonight, we're here today to say loudly and clearly that we demand an economy that works for all of us, not just the people on top. And by the way, we need a Democratic Party which makes a fundamental choice. And that is, are you on the side of the working class of this country or not? There are millions of working people whose families used to vote Democratic, and they look and they say, why do we have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country? Why is it that I'm working longer hours for low wages? Why is it that I can't afford health care? Why is it that I can't afford my rent or my mortgage? Why is it that I can't afford to send my kid to college? And the Democratic Party is finally going to have to say, we stand with those people. We're prepared to take on the greed of corporate America. But when we talk about the Democratic Party, it is not just domestic issues, and I'm going to get into that in a moment. It is also foreign policy as well. Donald Trump believes that Ukraine started the war with Russia. Well, Mr. Trump, get your history correct. It was Russia and that terrible dictator, Vladimir Putin, that began that war. And we will stand with democracy and not with authoritarian people all over the world.
We and every Democrat needs to be following Bernie's lead and seizing on this moment to go after Trump. We are certainly going to be doing so on this show every single day. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. If you stuck around to the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.